Hello, everybody. My name is Andy Hand, and today we're going to be breaking down the history of, logic behind, and creator of the Hunimal system of measurement. And without further ado, let's get right into it. On the 1st of May 2024, a TikTok account by the name of 00.99.Hunimal posts a vague TikTok explaining Hunimal as seen right here.
Fifth plugga 3 is fate, plugga 4 is skoo, digga 2 is thrun, mega 3 is knee, plugga 2 is knive, plugga 4 is nin, digga 9 is want, mega 3 is threat, nega 4 is twine, plugga 3 is through.
As you can see from the video, paused right here, we have absolute nonsense. We've got numbers that don't make sense, we've got words that don't make sense, we've got scribbling on the wall, and we have a confused bald man with a lazy eye explaining stuff that doesn't make sense. If we look at the actual numbers he has written out here, they are stacked together almost like to the power of, but in the wrong order. It looks kind of similar to a system called tetration, which is like exponentiation to the higher degree, as seen here, but that doesn't really make any sense. As you can see, some numbers have two operators and are equal to like other things. As you can see here, fifth plugga 3 is fate. You say we've got two things around the word plugga, making us think that plugga is like an operator, but we also just have plugga 4 is skoo. So like clearly this word plugga, very confusing, obviously doesn't really make sense. Additionally, if we just do a simple Google search on Hunimal as such, first thing comes up is this beautiful website called hunimal.org, along with some Reddit threads. If we start, actually, we're going to start with the Reddit threads here. This is someone going deep into YouTube, as you can see, about 3 years ago, which is going to be an important number of years ago soon, where a face-tattooed man, as written here, defines his new symbol number theory with fictitious words and racial slurs. Racial slurs is also going to be a big part of this video. Obviously, some comments coming down here. We're going to return to these comments later. In the meantime, we're going to check out Hunimal.com, which is going to be unbelievably important in our investigation today. The first thing we see on Hunimal.com is a homepage which talks about geometry, signal processing, and number systems, some absolute crazy nonsense. There's a blog here. As you can see, he's got some interesting topics down here. He's got a working chess bot. You can play chess here. That's completely real. He's got a AI powered RPG, it seems like. I'm not gonna play all that. He's got a cryptocurrency that he's trying to buy. As you can see, he's trying to get this started. But the important part of the Hunimal website is, of course, Hunimal numbers. Alright, so this is the important part here. We're gonna touch on each of these one at a time. First thing, obviously, is the Hunimal system. This chart details every number in Hunimal. So this is the first major breakthrough we had in the iceberg, determining each of the Hunimal system numbers. As you can see, all of them are monosyllabic, which I noticed a long time ago. As you can see, like Zo, 0 becomes Zo, Sev, and Sev gets shortened from 7, so obviously all monosyllabic. And then, they still otherwise are just the standard decimal numbers. Svun, 71, they kind of do all make sense in their own right, even though it's kind of unintuitive if you just have the numbers. There's also a quiz here. As you can see, forn, I believe that is equal to 14. Yeah, so there's a quiz here, and it tells you if you're right. You can just keep going. They seem to be randomly generated. That's obviously nin. Moving on, just a few days ago, actually last night, as of the recording of this video, on Saturday, May 4th, the producer of behind this thing hosted a contest with prizes, which are like decently hard prizes, as you can see. Obviously he's got some information down here. There was a vote on who should be in charge of the production of a brochure, and the winner is Adam with 24 votes, as you can see right here. Moving further down, there's a translator game, so you translate from some system to some other system. This was the first major breakthrough because we discovered that the creator of Hunimal also has two other systems. As you can see, he's got the Hunimal system right here, but he also has sea animals and sodamals. And if we just take a look at this really quick, this at first sight looks completely insane. But at one point we realized that this is actually just Hunimal in Spanish. As you can see, un, dos, tres, cuatro, cinco, seis, siete, ocho, nueve. So we have just applied the Hunimal system and monosyllabized the Spanish system. And then as well, this is actually Russian. If we put these into a Russian translator, these are the numbers of Hunimal, but in Russian. So we're going to hide these. And yeah, that's one major breakthrough we had. You can convert anything to something else. So this is just a little game he made. Tune, I believe, is 21. That's not correct. It is actually 12. So that's my bad, guys. But that is the translator game, which is really interesting because we discovered that he's multilingual. This was fascinating. He has 3D print G-code files for every number in Hunimal. Which is, we're actually going to come back to that in a moment. And then finally, in this section, he has Hunimal font. As you can see, he's designed his own font. This actually does answer the question about these strange towers that he has right here. That actually, every number in Hunimal is a 2-digit number expressed as, a tens digit and a ones digit, but just in one place. So obviously, it's pretty self-intuitive. You just do two numbers, and then in Hunimal, every digit represents a 2-digit decimal system. So one thing we're actually going to discover while going through Hunimal is that it's surprisingly consistent and surprisingly logical. And this is the same chart as before. It just contains the Hunimal expansion as opposed to the standard binary expansion that they have going on here. And so that's kind of this website broken down. He also has some other stuff here, but it was pretty much unintelligible, so I didn't go through it. Moving further on, we can actually look back at these 3D print files, and they actually all do work, which was incredibly surprising. I pulled up a G-code renderer here, so this is a program which can render G-code, which is this, and I just took a random one. I believe it was 32. Pulled that up, and as you can see, it's kind of hard to rotate here. It does actually seem to be on a weird axis, but this is in fact a real 3D printable little model stand of the Hunimal number 32, which is, I believe, we can use our handy little thing here, the number through 32. So as you can see, Hunimal has 3D printable plastic working G-code. This is where we're going to give our first impressions. Whoever is creating Hunimal seems absolutely crazy, as we saw in the TikTok. Bald hair, face tattoos, pretty much telltale signs of meth usage. No real surprise there. Still very confused about the seeming descent into madness, the inconsistencies in the model. But it's only going to get crazier. So we're actually going to go back to that TikTok that we were looking at earlier and analyze the comments, which is actually going to give us some really intuitive insight into the way his system works. Alrighty, moving back to the TikTok, as you can see, same one right here, except this time we're going to play it in the editor. Half of these comments are just, like, oh, this guy's on meth, oh, this guy's a schizophrenic, oh, this guy's crazy. But if we look at some of the comments that are actually related to the topic, you can see that he actually does give coherent replies to a lot of them. Right here we have, can you do square roots with poopamal? Which I'm assuming is just someone being silly about Hunimal. And he says, yes, it actually works the same as decimal, but each number is doubled into a humber. So that's kind of confusing. But I'm assuming a humber is a Hunimal number. But it's actually going to get even more interesting here. As you can see right here, this comment from Ham, I'll zoom in on this, is pretty telling. So here we say, how can plug a 4 be SKU and nin? Right, this is referencing another TikTok on the same concept, and he says, well, Fate plug of 4 is SKU. All right, and if we look at our Hunimal chart real quick, we see that Fate is the number 58, and plug of 4 is SKU. And if we look back, we see that SKU is the number 62. So at first glance, we can see that he is consistent with the way his numbers work. He's not misspelling. He also says that Fate plug of 4 is not nin. So, that would make sense. He also says that Knive plug of 4 is nin. All right, analyzing that again, we see that Knive is equal to 95. Plug of 4 is nin. So what we can gauge from this is that plugga is the addition operator, we think. Because, Knive, 95, plugga 4 is nin. 95 plus 4 is 99. However, that does lead to an inconsistency, because if we look at his original TikTok, sometimes he just says plugga 4 is skew. So sometimes plugga means plus, creates that addition, but other times you can just have some number, just plugga 4, and that equals another number. So this leads us to believe initially that plugga is inconsistent, or that it can mean multiple things in different contexts. Again, this guy continues to go over in this comment that Hunimal.org has a chart quiz, which we were just looking at. And then a lot of the comments are very similar. They're all in the same vein. A lot of people just saying that they're on meth. A lot of people saying that he's actually onto something, which, obviously is an ironic comment in most cases. But, if we're being honest, this does at least make some sense. And, and I guess if you're on meth, it would make even more. Moving on further, if you do a search of Hunimal on YouTube, which, oh boy, is that a experience. So if we do a search of Hunimal on YouTube right here, we see 2 important videos. All right, and each of these can be watched on your own time, but I'll just give summaries of them. We're going to start with this one, what Hunimal means. This video right here, produced 3 years ago, I believe on December 16th, 2020. Once again, 3 years ago is an important timestamp, because that's going to be a major part of this man's life. He gives a description of what Hunimal means to him and why it's important. And watching this video, it's revealed that Hunimal is, and I quote, the answer to freedom, and that Hunimal was created to better represent incarceration rates in the United States, which is really interesting, and that's going to be really telling as we continue through this video. But that's one initial glimpse. If we take a look back at the other video called History of Hunimal, I did watch all 7 minutes of this video. It was difficult to watch, but we actually get a really interesting insight. The channel Crazy Negra Fag Retard, which is obviously owned by the same man who makes these TikToks. Once again, this one is from just a year ago. He gives a history of Hunimal and why he created it, and it's revealed in this video that while he was in solitary confinement in prison, he created this system to monosyllabize 2-digit numbers to make it easier to count. He thought it was random and abstract that we use decimal, and that he actually thinks this is a better system for counting because it monosyllabizes. He also recaps for the first time that I've found how numbers bigger than 99 work, and it's surprisingly well thought out. And as well, if you go back to the quiz on Hunimal.com, there is actually references to that same higher order counting system, and it is consistent. One remarkable thing about this so far is that everything is consistent. Anyway, we also learn that at the very end of the video, he says the true history is that while he was in jail, incarcerated for unspecified crimes, that he had a lot of time to think in solitary and decided that this was worth sharing. He says it's a gift for the children. So, kind of textbook ludicrousy, but at the same time, it does actually seem like he's trying to be helpful, at least to the world, and that, his delusions at least seem to keep him comfortable and to keep him, sated. But that is just the beginning, because we're about to talk about the major breakthroughs. While doing the research for this video, I was sitting here at my computer looking things up, and I watched the TikTok, the original TikTok that we've been focusing on. I've watched it over and over again, and it finally occurred to me that there is no inconsistency in Hunimal whatsoever. I'll explain. He says here that fifth plug of 3 is fate. Fifth is 55. Fate is 58. We've discussed earlier that plugga is likely addition. If you break down plugga, you see plus. You can see that root of pla. So 5 plugga 3 is fate. Pretty reasonable to assume that plugga means plus. 55 plus 3 is 58. But the question is, why is plugga able to be done to nothing? But then I realized these are not separate examples. These are not him listing a few different things. This is a chain of thought that goes down. So first, fifth plug of 3 is fate. All right, so think about your calculator. Fate. Now, fate plug of 4 is skew. If you do that math, 58 plus 4 is 62. What he's doing in this video is not giving separate examples. This is a consistent line of reasoning. He's taking the product of one number and applying it to the next, and it works the whole way down. 58 plug of 4 is 62. 58 plus 4 is 62. 62 diga. We discovered that diga is division, as it makes sense, because you kind of just take the first syllable of an operator and add GGA to it, as to why we'll get to later. But divided by 2 is 31. If we take 62, skew, and we divide it by 2, we get 31. Mega is the multiplication operator. Mega 3 is ni. 31 times 3 is 39. And plug a 2 is 9. Plug a 2 is 9. 93 plus 2 is 95. Additionally, one thing that we don't see in this video is a subtraction operator. Plugga, digga, mega, that's your addition, subtraction, multiplication. And we do see a reference to square roots in the comment section, but we do not see anywhere the subtraction operator. But if we dig deeper into his blog, actually, this is kind of hard to find, you find an article that he posted March 7th, 2024, quite recently, called Plugga, nega, digga, and mega. So we discovered that the subtraction operator is actually nega, as in negative, which is an interesting side note. So he actually does have 4 major operators, and that's what you find. So in fact, this is not inconsistent. So far, once making this discovery about this video, we have learned that there is 0 inconsistency in the Hunimal system. It is crazy, but in a way that is surprisingly enlightening. There's nothing about Hunimal that is actually crazy. It's just different from what we know, which is really interesting. I'm not saying this person isn't completely crazy, but there's nothing true about the decimal system that we use other than that we all choose to use it. But Hunimal, unironically, is a complete, consistent, and accurate number system based around our own, but in some ways genuinely more streamlined, because you can monosyllabize any number below 99. It's obviously not any more useful than real numbers, but it is shockingly not actually crazy. It is crazy that you'd think of this, and you can see in the background these drawings on the walls, but the actual system is coherent. If this was a Harvard professor teaching a lesson on alternative number systems and this is what he chose, you would see it as normal. So it's actually really interesting that this person, who seems to be maybe on meth, maybe schizophrenic, has actually created a perfectly consistent mathematical system. And when I learned that, I just had to know more about this man. So I went beyond just the number system, and I wanted to learn more about this man right here. Who is this man? And oh boy, was I surprised. The story of Mr. Hunimal, as I've called him so far, is about to get completely crazy, because I did more research about the man himself and not just about his content, and oh boy, was I not expecting what I found. First things first, when we go to the Hunimal blog, we see that every single post on this blog site was made by David. No last name, no location, but we know at least that the man calls himself David. Reasonable to assume that his name is David. A lot of these blog posts are completely unhinged, such as this one. And not really sure what that even means. Doing some more research, went down a little bit of a Reddit thread, and this was the first thing that I found that really helped me learn about who this man is, Mr. David. I'm going to take this person at their word, because I have no idea who Phil Do 2006 is, but he reveals here that this dude's real name, his real life name, is David Super Blank. I'll let you fill in for yourself, and that he is in prison. This comment was a major turning point in this investigation. We're going to come back to this in a second, because I don't think everything is true here. I think this is in some ways built for shock value on Reddit, just to farm some karma, or whatever you call it. But this was really interesting. So we can confirm from multiple sources that this man's name is David, and that he's a fan of racial slurs, which is, again, consistent to his blog posting. Doing a search for that man's name, I'm taking one for the team here, gives you a few things. As you can see, I've already done some of them. We have some Reddits dedicated to him. As seen in this profile picture here, this is in fact the same person, so someone made a fan Reddit account of him. But what's most interesting is if we take his name, and then we add the word prison at the end, we get multiple documents that lead to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I am not an expert, and I was not able to find much more than this. But from my assumptions, and I did read through these documents, it would seem that this man, David, is from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and that he has been in and out of prison. Furthermore, I found some even crazier stuff. While looking through his history, I found another YouTube channel. This YouTube channel is called Atheist HQ. If we look at the about real quick, we can see that it was made in March 3rd, 2009, a long time ago. And if we look at these videos, the most recent one is 13 years ago. The longest ago one was 15 years ago. And in case you haven't been paying attention, this is the same man. This is David 15 years ago. He looks to be maybe anywhere from 18 to 25 in these. Looks like a much younger man. I did watch a few of these videos. They are as unhinged as Hunimal videos, but not about Hunimal. They're actually just about why God isn't real and why we should call everyone slurs. This is completely unhinged. I will say that in the more recent videos from Mr. David, he at least does seem to be making positive contributions to the world, even though they're not actually positive. But he seems to be an improved person trying to make reform in his own life and trying to help others. When he made this channel, he was kind of just calling everyone slurs. It seems that he's always been schizophrenic or on drugs, one of the two, maybe both. One thing I have noticed, and this seems to be a consistent thread, is that this video 13 years ago was the last time he posted anything, as far as I can tell, which leads me to think that his prison sentence that he received what seems like a 9 or 10-year prison sentence. I'm thinking 10 is most consistent, presumably for drug charges, but we're not sure. Because if we go to his new YouTube channel, the first video ever posted to this new channel was 4 years ago. So we go from 13 years ago to 4 years ago. I'm thinking of 9.5, 10-year prison sentence. As you can see, same man. He's going in and out of baldness in all these videos. Sometimes he has hair, sometimes he doesn't. Sometimes he has glasses, sometimes he doesn't. I have noticed that when he's not wearing his glasses, he tends to get a lazy eye. And even when he is wearing his glasses sometimes. So as you can see, yeah, same person. We found him again. He had a major theme of using all forms of racism, homophobia. At one point, he made claims in one of these videos that it was to heal the world, and that if everyone starts using, words such as the N-word to describe people, that if everyone uses it, it just becomes normalized, and then the word loses its power, which I don't think I agree with, but I think you can at least potentially find logic in that, what little logic there is. And then, yeah, same person. He seems to have a passion for sharing what he has to say, which, take that for what it will. And yeah, so we discovered this kind of history of the man. He moves from violent, angry, racist, and homophobic remarks back in the day, presumably receives a prison sentence, probably for drug charges, though it seems like he's been schizophrenic since he was starting the channel. I don't think this is meth. I think if he went to prison and got off prison, that he wouldn't keep doing meth because he'd go back to prison. So I think he was schizophrenic from the start, somehow got into a substance, maybe meth, something like that, which definitely didn't help him. And now that he's out, I think he just remains schizophrenic and is at least trying to make a positive impact, which is, I guess, admirable. If we go even farther, keep looking, try and find more, we can go to his TikTok, and if we go to his official account right here, one thing we notice is that a lot of his videos show him writing in Sharpie on either big pieces of brown butcher paper or just straight up on his drywall, as you'd expect with a potential schizophrenic. Not very nice handwriting, seems kind of insane, as we can see. What was most interesting about this search is that he has a link to Hunimal.org, obviously, in his bio, but he also has a link to Zikzak.org. And if we do actually go to Zikzak.org, which is in fact a real URL, we see that he's created what seems like a sort of alt video hosting platform, as his own TikTok. Um, Most of these are just completely crazy. I watched a few of them. One interesting side note is that all of his like counts are in Hunimal. I watched this one just to see what it was about. He seems to be making wooden figures, little action figures. These are actually the same figures that he used in this crazy game that he made. As you can see, this pig one right here, I think, is the same one that he makes in this little video. So maybe he has a passion for role playing or for little characters, which I do too. So I can't blame the guy. At least he's got a hobby other than meth. I also found another video in here called this. And I watched this short video a few times actually. He essentially makes a similar claim to what he makes on his old YouTube channel and his new channel, that essentially by calling everyone slurs and by normalizing the use of like insults, that they lose all power and just become, I don't know, normalized, and also that it humanizes people to be called mean words. Once again, pretty crazy. Not really the move in my opinion. But he's, at least it seems the common thread is that he thinks he's being helpful. He doesn't seem to be hateful. He doesn't seem to be violent, and he doesn't seem to be like actually racist. Just kind of that like he's schizophrenic and disturbed kind of racist. But there is a human being here that's increasingly interesting to me. I might email him. We'll see. Further on, we're going to take the deepest of deep dives. First of all, I want to touch on whether or not I think personally that he's schizophrenic. I absolutely think he is schizophrenic. I'm not a schizophrenia expert. I'm not a psychologist. But this, to me, does not look like drugs. This looks way more to me like a mental illness that causes him to have just, delusions of grandeur and just, this like kind of I'm onto something thought, but and he's not onto something. The most interesting thing about this all to me is that he is, one, entirely consistent with all of his works. Two, his math checks out. Not once have I found an example of his math not working, or about he's not even made a spelling mistake as far as I can tell. Everything seems to be consistent. And three, he's a human too, I think. He's a crazy human, but he's a human too. And it looks like now that he's out of prison, you can see that transition from violent, atheist, racist that he was in the past to at least kind of, doing something that seems better. It looks like he has hobbies. It looks like his passion is making these videos and doing some stuff. He also lives somewhere. He's not homeless, so maybe he's being supported by someone. Maybe he has, maybe he has a job. You never know. It gives me hope. I will say that it gives me hope. Some closing regards I have on Mr. David. I did some research. I figured out that it is illegal to change your legal name to contain racial slurs in the state of Pennsylvania and in general in the United States. So his name, David blank, it seems to just be a nickname. I was unable to find his actual last name, couldn't look him up. I didn't want to like stalk him or anything, but I was curious and maybe see prison records, see what he's up to. I wasn't able to find that. I also looked, tried to find his name in any documents, tried to find anywhere on maybe Reddit, on YouTube, any about pages about him. Was not able to. Also, I tried to kind of figure out more about why he created Hunimal. Kind of just seems like he was doing it as a pastime. He says in one of his videos that it was so that he could kind of like lock in during prison experience. Kind of just something to do. He says a few times that he was in solitary confinement, which is strange. I don't think they'd give you that for drug charges. But I guess if you were borderline schizophrenic, that you would likely be put into solitary, so you're not with other inmates, maybe for your own personal safety. We also have to take him at his word. We do not know for a fact that he was in true solitary confinement. Maybe he was just in a regular prison. Maybe he was in a mental prison. That is absolutely a possibility. And because if you were in a mental prison, I doubt you'd see a lot of other prisoners. But at the end of the day, I think it's incredibly interesting for one, and I think it's crazy to me that it's consistent because it started off as a joke where we'd just say plug a 2 is knife repeatedly, but at the end of the day, it's all there. You know, he's crazy and he might have done math and he's definitely schizophrenic in my opinion, but he's still a human and he's trying to make a difference. It seems like, and you know what are we doing to make a difference at the end of the day? You know, he's at least trying, and we're just sitting here making fun of him. So, um, maybe he can get help. Maybe this is the help he needs. Maybe posting videos is the help he needs. So, with that, I'm gonna sign off. It was wonderful talking to you all today, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.